You're watching RT International live from our Moscow studio with me, Nadira Tudor. Welcome to the programme. Protests have turned violent in where people have taken to the streets in major cities to vent their anger at President's labour reforms, which come into effect in a week. Projectiles and flares have been thrown by the crowds. Similar protests are being held in several major cities like Nantes, Lyon and Marseille. Demonstrators promised around 4,000 separate strikes and almost 200 rallies across France. Our correspondent Polly Boyko joins us live now from Paris. So, Polly, the unions promised a day of disruption. Have they delivered?
They have, and the atmosphere has definitely changed. I spoke to you just an hour ago. It was pretty jovial. I was in amongst the fun fair protesters, clowns, entertainers, and now we've seen projectiles go off, flares being thrown, and we've just been approached by somebody wearing a mask saying, you know, you need to be really careful because there are people there who could break television equipment, who don't like journalists. So it's really changed. You just heard another, can you hear the projectiles? They're going off in the background, and there's riot police, the French riot police, armed to the teeth, ready to respond should these disturbances get out of hand. Of course, all of this in protest against the changes that Emmanuel Macron wants to make to the labour laws here in France. And he really did himself no favours earlier during the week, last week, when he referred to all of his opponents as lazy slackers. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Bonjour, qui sont les fainéants dont vous parlez? Est-ce que vous regrettez d'avoir employé ce mot? Absolument pas. Qui sont les fainéants? Il ne donne pas les déformer. Écoutez mon discours. On l'a écouté. Eh bien, il est clair. Qui sont ces fainéants dont vous parlez? Eh bien donc, écoutez mon discours. Vous avez l'emploi du mot fainéant? Absolument pas.
And that phrase appears to have really galvanized a lot of people to come out onto the streets. A lot of people here waving banners saying, we are the slackers, slackers of the world, unite. But really, people very unhappy here, the trade unions, with these changes to the labour laws. They're meant to liberalise the working market here. They're meant to make it easier for firms to hire and fire personnel, which Emmanuel Macron seems to think is going to change the pretty dire situation here with the unemployment rate. France has a stubbornly high unemployment rate. It's double that of France, of the UK and Germany. But the trade unions are dead set against it. Take a listen to what the people we spoke to had to say.
This law is antisocial because it's unreliable for workers. This law doesn't provide workers with rights to work. It doesn't give privileges in both the public and the private sectors. We defend the interests of workers, work conditions, retirement.
The draft law affects 18 million workers, the majority of all French workers, and will significantly limit their rights and make it easier to fire people, even when it's not justified.
We represent the people and the movement. We're protesting a number of laws in the name of the movement, so we want to do it in a festive manner.
It's about a law which is harmful for us. This would leave us without any work guarantees.
There are protests taking place all across France, but it's really being seen as a litmus test, this demonstration today, because not all the trade unions are taking part. Emmanuel Macron's team spent a lot of the summer trying to woo some of the trade unions, placate them, and some of them weren't taking part. But we're already seeing injured people from some of the clashes that have been taking place further up the road. So the atmosphere really very different, and this has really been billed as a showdown between the people that are against these changes to the law and a pro-business president who is really determined to push them through Parliament, these changes, as soon as possible. And we're going to see how it unfolds later on throughout the day.
Yeah, we'll certainly do wait to see what happens there. Thank you. Polly Boyko reporting there from Paris. Thanks. France has seen violent anti-labour law protests in the past. Let's take a quick look back. The Syrian